MLBB Around the World is powered by Asus Republic of Gamers. The ROG phone is the official gaming phone of the M6 World Championships.
I know you guys missed me. That much is true, because almost instantly after uploading episode 1 of MLBB Around the World, y'all are like, where's episode 2? Where's episode 2? Here it is. I got you, fam. Join me as we take a trip around the world, checking out what MLBB is like for the newcomers at M6. First up, let's talk about the China M6 qualifier champion, KBG, also known as Keep Best Gaming. We last saw them at MSC 2024 in the wildcard, and they didn't make it out. But what I can say for sure now is, with that secured slot, they're much better. Let's talk about their metagame. In their qualifier, they were playing the global server. If you'll notice, like, their draft was close to what we're used to. 60 to 70% was on point. They just had this weird fixation on Akai and Kufra and a few other heroes that really don't see much play in our current metagame. So consider that. They're adjusting, but also the future is very bright. I think this is going to be their best performance yet. Given what happened at the qualifiers, given what happened with TLG. If you'll remember, TLG at MWI, they were a revelation. So now Keep Best Gaming, they're carrying the banner of the Chinese region going into M6. And I've said this before, I don't know if I said it in public channels, but among discussions with talents and people in the MLBB circuit, I would always say, hey, as soon as China gets access to the global server and they go full swing into the esports landscape, I give them 6 months. 6 months from when that happens before they become a legit threat. I'm not gonna say powerhouse, I'm not gonna say a dominant force, but a legit threat. So maybe that countdown starts now. They've opened Pandora's box. They gave them access to the global server, and you can't put the genie back into the bottle. We'll see. It's just a matter of time. Micro or macro? Micro for sure. But at the end of the day, watching them play, macro is the goal. Like, they want to control the map, they want to control the pace of the fights, but across a 5-man squad with 2 Filipinos in Tracy and Saksha leading the way, it's not as easy to do just yet. Macro isn't in their muscle memory. They're still in the whole swing of things of controlling their own lane and controlling their own mechanics to eventually lead to something on the map. Like that's what I see. So micro for now, macro eventually, but micro for sure. Pacing, objective-centric. They are dedicated to whatever is spawning in the turtle or lord pit, and then they gotta do what they gotta do to get that, or find a trade. I think that's what defines a team that is working towards their macro developing. If they know that they can't get the turtle or the lord, they will eventually find a way to trade or turn. You see the concept of the turn, that's a very macro approach to things. And I think KBG is on the way to building that. KBG is on their way to achieving that. How do they do that? Like, tangibly speaking, a lot of CC. Look at their rosters, look at their drafts, look at the comps that they end up with. It's a lot of Kaja, again, a lot of Kufra, a lot of Akai, Khalid. You have Benedetta, who can dodge the CC. Their X-Planer is good at that. Speaking of picks, you're gonna see a lot of Nolan Hayabusa, Suyo from Saksha, Kaja and Kufra on Tracy. LMU, their mid laner, plays a lot of Sicilian. So you can see how mechanics matter for now, and then eventually build up to a late game level of control. That Benedetta XP I mentioned. I would like to see their matchup with BTK, because BTK, we'll talk about them later on, they're an engage-centric team too. Like, they want to control the fight, and they want to be in control when things go down. And they want to be first to the pits. They want to be first to Lord, they want to be first to Turtle. It's the same story with KBG. And to add to that, they're also very jungler-centric teams. It's Saksha and the gang for KBG, it's Zane and the gang for BTK. Truth be told, it might just look like honest fighting, like just good fighting coming from these two. If there were to be like a sudden outplay, like a clutch from out of nowhere, I expect BTK to do that first, because you do have Hoon and Shark, but how does Tracy and LMU respond? Like, that's the question. That's why it's so interesting to me and I hope for them to eventually face on the grand stage, BTK versus KBG. Moving on, let's talk about the champion of MPL LATAM, the new champion, should I say, sweeping the former monarch, the former dominant force, RRQ Akira. 4-0, ladies and gentlemen, 4-0. How do you do that? I'll tell you how. Maycam is weird. Maycam Evolve have such an interesting play style, have such an interesting draft. Having the DNA of Imperio in them. We saw them last in the previous major tournaments, but some of these names are familiar and some of these names will ring a bell. But do note, this is their first championship within LATAM. It's always been RRQ Akira the past few years, and now that it's them with a spotlight, how are they going to take that pressure? First up, let's build on that point. Maycam is weird. Their jungle and their gold have such niche picks that you could swear they weren't playing in the 2024 metagame. I'll tell you now. We'll start with their picks first, all right? Aurora, with an extra A, their jungler, has Yusin Shin, Lancelot, and Popolin Koopa. Those are some of his notable picks. Like, what even is that? What even? What even? Like, where's your Hayabusa? Where's your Ling? Where's your Julians, your Nolans? Their XP laner has a pocket Kaja, and he still plays a solid Lapu-Lapu, like even in his current metagame. That's Marquinhos. You know Marquinhos. You've seen him play. And their gold lane has a Hanabi and a Roger. Still a Roger. All this time, still a Roger. So those are the interesting picks. Now, to explain their play style, looking at their grand finals, 3 out of 4 games in their grand finals were comeback victories. Like, you watch it and you see the RQ Akira are up to their usual antics, like just controlling the map, winning man-to-man. But when you watch Maycam, you'll see that they know exactly what their opponent is up to. You'll see that they know how to get to a position where they can win. And it's weird that in the grand finals, in the early game, they were losing, they were down. Because based on MPL LATAM and based on what their talents shared with us, Maycam is usually in control early on. Maycam can sometimes get over-aggressive, overconfident, and overextend. But that never stopped them. Against RQ Akira, they were a different beast. They had to learn how to play into the late game, and they had to learn how to attack or deny the points of their opponent's strength. That's weird. But basically what they did was they denied Tekash. They stopped Astro Thunder, all right? How did that work? Well, number one, their roamer played very defensively. The roamer always tried to stop Luis and then find Tekash. And they protected Aurora so that, again, it's a very jungler-centric team. Aurora is their main shot caller. They eventually got to the point wherein Aurora can just start pushing and start fighting and start attacking the angles that RQ Akira were weak at, and then go from there. He was so good at just finding Saigen, so good at just finding Gusta Lagusta, and then suddenly RQ Akira can't fight anymore. Like, that was the story from game 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now it makes sense why they have a Yusin Shin, why they have a Lancelot. That's what those two heroes like to do. Especially the Yusin Shin. Like, the Yusin Shin can just press Earth Shock or boom, I know where everything is. It's not worth the fight, gentlemen. Let's back off. And that's not to say that they're perfect. Again, comeback victory means something went wrong in the early game. And what that is, specifically, is little mechanical misplays. Like, I would see too early of an engage from the roamer. I would see Marquinhos going in too deep and then, dying for nothing. Free pickoff for the opponent, basically. And luckily, those aren't hardly as punishable, right? When a roamer and XP laner die out of nowhere, it's fine. And that's why it's so important for Maycam to understand that going into the international stage, going into M6. They have to understand that most things aren't disposable, most things aren't expendable. They have to learn how to polish their micro so that their macro doesn't suffer. In MPL LATAM, sure, they can get away with it, they can come back, but maybe international stage they couldn't. Which now comes to their focus. Are they macro or micro? Weirdly enough, I think they're macro. I told you all now, there were micro mistakes. If you're so honed in on your micro, if you're focused that way, you wouldn't let that slip. So that makes me think they're more macro than we would give them credit for. They understand the flow of the game. They understand how to get to a late game wherein they can make up for the early. That's just my read. I think their macro should evolve in the next month or so, going into M6, so that they could really, step toe-to-toe with the best in the world. Work on their micro, just little tweaks, because micro is easier to work on, in my opinion, than macro. So I think they're on a good path. Who am I interested to see them face off against? KBG. We just talked about Keep Best Gaming. And both are heralds of a new era in their respective regions, right? KBG took down the previous champion, given it was less of a long dominant reign. China's very new to MLBB. But RRQ Akira though, when Maycam Evolve took down RRQ Akira, it was a miracle and it was a breath of fresh air. As much as I love RRQ Akira, them's my boys, all right? There's my hermanos. But these hermanos, these amigos, like they're here to usher in a new age. And I want to see those two new ages come together and show the world that this is what the region means now. This is what we can bring to the world stage. And I'm pretty sure their play style will be interesting too. Like they're both macro, they both want to aim for macro. It's just, I think KBG can punish, but I hope Maycam has polished by the time we get to Kuala Lumpur. That's Maycam Evolve for you. And to cap off this episode of MLBB Around the World, talking about the newcomers, we'll do a speed run of the wildcard teams, and I'll tell you who I think is going to be in the grand finals. The way this format works is it's 8 teams split up into 2 groups, so 4 each, playing a single round robin best of 3. The top one of each group will be facing off against each other in a decider match that's going to be a best of 5. So only one will move on to the main event, only one will join the Swiss rounds. Running through these teams, I'll share a tidbit for each, and then we'll get to my prediction. The MCC Mekong Season 4 champion from Vietnam, Lee Jun Esports, formerly Xeno Zenith. I think this is the Joe show. It's the Joe God show. So if he gets off, then they'll understand what it means like to play in a league that isn't just about them. It's clear that in the Mekong region, they're the superstars. The runner-up from the MCC Mekong Season 4 qualifier from Laos is Nightmare Esports. They're a clear second. They're a clear runner-up in Mekong. And they've been around the block. It's not their first time here, but I think it's their micro that suffers. Am I wrong to say that? Y'all can call me out on it. Laotian fans, Mekong fans, if you know better, but I think if they can polish their micro a little better, they can try for more macro plays or at least respond to teams who are on that level, you know? But I think Nightmare Sports need to work on that. Let's talk about the EECA's finest, the MCC Season 4 runner-up, Incilio. Formerly known as the Mad Bulls, for a spell they were known as BB Team. I really think they could have won. As much as I love Team Spirit, I really think Incilio had something going. And to think they were in the upper bracket. Incilio relies heavily on Justinian and Reaper. I'm a big fan of Maniac and Don't, like just to clear things out. Like these are my homeboys. I love my time with them in Kazakhstan at Supernova, but I think they have a big chip on their shoulder and they might have just a little bit more of a dog in them, more hunger than Team Spirit going in. It's because they lost at that grand final. So that's just me. Talking about the fallen champions of Turkey, the MTC runner-up. It's weird. 4th season in, they lose. I'm talking about the former Fireflux Esports. It's Ulfednar. They're the same team that we knew from about 2.5 years ago. This is that same squad. You know what? I'll tell you now, it's the same story as Incilio. Like, they're more hungry now than ever before because they lost to S2G. And it's the same call out. Watch out for Rosa, watch out for Alien. And from one fallen champion to another, it's RRQ Akira, grand finalist from MPL LATAM. I think the issue with them is they got read out. It was too clear and too easy to say, you take out Tekash, you take out Gusta Lagusta, that mid-trio don't have anything to play for. So if they can, between now and M6 wildcard, figure out how to change that, they can make it to that decider and then make a Hail Mary play for the Swiss. Like that's my bit, all right? Find a way to alleviate a little bit of pressure from Astro Thunder, from Tekash. Find a way to maybe change. Maybe King just got so used to the utility jungle, man. It's changed. It's changed. Moving over to the MPL MENA Grand Finalists, it's GK Esports. I wish I could say more for GK. The MPL MENA metagame has always just been hard to read. Is it just me, or is that weird that I find more comfort in reading the China qualifier and Mekong compared to MENA? They've been going, 6 seasons now? I don't know. Talking about the M6 grand finalist from the China qualifier, It's DFYG, formerly known as Shanyu Gaming. A little bit of a facelift from this squad, but they still found their way into the grand finals. And mind you, KLVJ is still on the roster, but not playing in the main anymore. I think KBG just evolved faster than they could. It's clear that they changed some stuff around, right? But I think KBG got on that global server switch up a little better. Like they hit the ground running a little easier. And last but not least, weirdly enough, the first team to actually qualify for anything in the M Series, the very first M6 wildcard slot holder, the Mongols from Mongolia, winning the ESN National Championship early on in the quarter. It's no longer IHC. IHC is no longer the flag bearer for Mongolia. I wish I could say more, because a new era in every region comes with a lot of baggage. A new era from every region comes with a lot of different factors. So I'm gonna say, I'll stick with what I know, and luckily the groups fall in line with my prediction. Topping each would be Incilio from ECA and Ofednar from MTC, from Turkey. That's gonna be a good best of 5, man. Number 2 from ECA, number 2 from Turkey, and I'll leave the rest to the imagination. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this episode of MLBB Around the World, talking about the newcomers at the M6 World Championship. Let me know if I missed anything specific about these teams, because again, you know your teams better if you're from that region. If you're big fans of these teams coming to play, share it with me, and I'm sure we'll all be better for knowing a little more. And if you think my predictions for the wild card were whack, drop yours down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please click like and subscribe. Shout out to my man Rayash and to all the talents and to all of the fans who share knowledge about these teams coming to compete. Y'all the MVPs. Thank you so much. In the next episode of MLBB Around the World, let's take a trip over to the West, because I think that's where a lot of the dark horses will come from. Watch out for that. Y'all have a great day. Peace.